Hey, everybody. I'm so glad you made it here tonight. For another edition of Ask the Doctor. So, hold on just 1 second. I need to change something. Okay. So we're going to do an edition tonight of Ask the Doctor. We're going to be focusing on mental health. We all deal with a lot of stress, anxiety, and sometimes it gets out of control. And the next thing we know, we are in full-blown depression. So what can we do about it? That's where Dr. Jeremy comes in. He's going to share with us what it's all about, what it does, how it affects us, and what we can do naturally to kind of get ahead of that curve so we don't have to.
That was it. It was the non-speakers.
So,
I got it.
Okay. So, without any further ado, I'm going to have you take it away, Dr. Jeremy. Share with us all your wisdom. And oh, by the way, before he takes it away, in the comments, let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you or somebody you love struggles with these issues, we'd kind of like to know how we can better help you.
Absolutely. Drop that in the chat. If you or family member deals with especially depression or anxiety, we're going to focus on that tonight. Would love to know that in the chat. Very timely topic, not only because of the skyrocketing, epidemic of depression and anxiety, but it's also Mental Health Awareness Month. So we talked about this topic, what was it, 2 weeks ago, Anna? And we had a good response from it and asked to do it again. And so we are, move some stuff on my screen here. We're going to talk about it again, especially still May. So it's still that month, right?
Is that beer? Just teasing. Yeah, it's Curcumin. Relax, everybody.
All right. Now you know we were listening to music and dancing over here, right?
Exactly.
My name is Dr. Jeremy Thornton. I'm an internist, a chiropractic physician, clinical nutritionist out of Missouri. Been in practice for 23 years. My main area of practice is chronic inflammatory conditions, autoimmune disease, and such. But like all practitioners, seeing so much, such an increase, a rise in mental health issues, especially in anxiety and depression, which we're going to focus on tonight. We're going to talk about an area that isn't talked about very often, and that's the underlying cause of inflammation. So we're going to talk about anxiety, depression, and the inflammation connection. And so that's going to be our topic tonight. I'm going to try to share my screen. In the 8th grade and looking at the comments. As you can tell, questions in the chat.
Crazy. So many people are struggling with this.
Iowa, PT, joint pain, so many. And there's probably a lot of people that need to be on here that couldn't make it. And we're going to make a recording, and we'll have a video link. So if somebody couldn't get on and you want to get the information out to somebody, just get with us and we'll make sure you copy of it. We've even got some testimonials that we'll be sharing with guests later at the end of our chat here. I'm going to keep my relatively short, hopefully around 30 minutes if I can manage to do that. I'm going to try.
Dr. Jeremy, your bandwidth is very low, it says, and you are breaking up bad.
All right, hold on. Let me check something real quick.
Somebody's going to beam him up, Scotty. Apologize, but I know we want to hear what he has to say.
Okay, we're going to give that a shot. We've had some weather, so you never know here in Missouri. How's the sound?
Better.
Okay, good. All right. And so let's see if I can get my screen to share. Bring up my PowerPoint here if we can. Can you see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So first thing I want to point out here is that go. Following information not intended to replace professional medical recommendations or advice. It's for educational purposes based on preventive medicine. If you have any of the following symptoms, you should consult a licensed health professional for the diagnosis and treatment of any medical conditions. So I always want to cover those types of things before we get started. Again, May's Mental Health Awareness Month, we're going to talk about anxiety, depression, and the inflammation connection. This here is just within the past 2019 to 2021, the increases in anxiety, right? Here's anxiety. This is where we were pre, right? 8.1%. And look at the percentage now, okay? This is depression. Here was at 6.5%, was ringing in here at as high as 30%, now at 21%. And recent studies are showing it's holding steady about that same area. And so we've just seen skyrocketing levels of anxiety and depression. You guys have probably seen it around you and family and friends. I'm even just, on social media, I'm constantly seeing people dealing with anxiety, depression, and unfortunately people losing loved ones to suicide that are dealing with mental health challenges. And of course that all escalated during the pandemic. So here are symptoms of anxiety. Over on this side, trembling, rapid heart rate, increased breathing rate, sweating, muscle tension, panic. Over here, depression, we have the fatigue, irritability, loss of interest, guilt, low self-esteem, prolonged grief, can have suicidal thoughts. And then we have in the middle some symptoms that are that can go both ways, are in depression and anxiety, which are excessive worry. Somatic complaints mean aches and pains, chronic pain, difficulty thinking, concentrating, decision-making, restlessness, agitation, social withdrawal. So those are some of the common symptoms of anxiety and depression. So we can have medical conditions, right? There can be medical conditions that cause anxiety and depression. And these are some of the more common ones listed here that cause depression: stroke, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease, head injuries, MS, Cushing's, hypothyroid. These are common ones that cause anxiety, and that's hyperthyroid, hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, of course, Cushing's disease. We have B12 deficiency, cardiovascular disease, pulmonary diseases. So these are different medical conditions that, of course, depression and anxiety are common in. And these are the general talked about causes of anxiety and depression today. We hear a lot about brain chemistry imbalance, and really, medically speaking, that's about the only thing that's addressed is things that affect serotonin and dopamine and affect brain chemistry. We're going to talk about here in a little bit how we may be affecting the body in ways we weren't realizing by treating with anti-anxiety and antidepressant medications. Stress, drugs, genetics, poor nutrition, physical health problems, traumatic events, and that could be traumatic stressful events, it could be abuse, but it also could be injuries, and things like head injuries and things like that. Brain inflammation can be the underlying cause, and this is an area we're going to start getting into that we don't hear talked about often. And now that was some of the old school thoughts on depression and anxiety, and now we're seeing a lot of studies in these areas. We're still, neurotransmitters are important, right? We're not downplaying that role, but inflammation is a big player. Cytokines, which are those inflammatory chemicals, are a big player. Hormones can be a big player in depression and anxiety, and that's adrenal hormones. That could be sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen, progesterone. Toxicity, we live in a very toxic world. And we could probably spend all night just talking about the different ways that these things play a role in depression and anxiety. And the GI system, which we will talk a little bit about. The gut, right? They call the gut the second brain, and there's good reason for that. The study here is inflammation in anxiety. It says the presence of an inflammatory response and the crucial role of cytokines in depression have received most attention. These authors offer an oxidative stress theory, which we propose works perhaps as a sensor of distress the imbalance of which leads to neuroinflammation and causes anxiety disorders. So they explore some of the ideas about those inflammation and those inflammatory chemicals that we just talked about called cytokines, and how that can play a crucial role in anxiety. The bidirectional relationship of depression and inflammation, double trouble. In this review, we describe how the immune system regulates mood and the potential causes of the dysregulated inflammatory responses in depressed patients. Inflammation is likely a critical disease modifier, promoting susceptibility to depression. Controlling inflammation might provide an overall therapeutic benefit, regardless of whether it is secondary to early life trauma, a more acute stress response, microbiome alterations, that's the gut, right? Our genes, or a combination of these. So they're seeing that in intervening with inflammation can impact depression almost regardless of the underlying cause of that depression. So that's pretty huge. And this is something that I just recently come across that just completely blew me away. And I've been studying more and more, and there's a lot of good research on this, mostly in the past 2-3 years, is that they're finding that these anti-anxiety medications and antidepressant medications have inflammatory benefits. They are anti-inflammatories in nature.
Wow.
So of course we're taught that these SSRIs, right, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, they call them, are impacting serotonin in our brain, and that's why they improve anxiety. Now what they're saying is, well, wait a minute, maybe not. Maybe these SSRIs, because they have anti-inflammatory capabilities, are impacting and affecting anxiety. So that completely changes our thought process on why these medications are effective. So let me move some things around here on my desktop. Sorry about that. Moderate acute anti-inflammatory effects of these medications suggest that these anti-inflammatory effects may underlie the anxiolytic effects of these SSRIs. So we're saying that's the anti-inflammatory benefit that may be why these medications are so beneficial. And this is more research. There's actually a lot of studies on this. The anti-inflammatory mechanisms of antidepressants, SSRIs and SNRIs. So that blew me away. I had no idea that these medications had anti-inflammatory capabilities. And this indeed goes hand in hand with, could a lot of cases of anxiety and depression, mental health challenges be related to brain inflammation or neuroinflammation? So then that brings to mind the question, why, right? Why is the brain inflamed? Where does this brain inflammation come from? And we're going to talk about one of the primary causes of brain inflammation. It goes back to the gut, okay? The gut-brain connection.
Wow.
And this was in the Journal of Neuroscience Research. This was just in 2019. The role of inflammation and the gut microbiome in depression and anxiety, okay? So this is recent studies where they're studying the role of inflammation and how the gut plays a role in that inflammation in the body that, of course, leads to the symptoms of depression and anxiety. So you may have heard the term leaky gut, but there's also a condition called leaky brain. And we're going to just talk briefly about how those are connected. We have a whole presentation, right, Anna, that you and I have done on leaky gut and yeast and like that. And so we take a much deeper dive into this. We're just going to briefly talk about it here. And so this top picture here is what it looks like in the gut lining, right? If we were to slice open the intestines and we were to look at it on its side, these are what those cells look like. Let's just pretend that right here is where the food passes through, right? And these are the endothelial intestinal cells there. And these cells come together, and where they come together right here, they call these tight junctions. This is where the cells come together, right? And it's very picky about what it lets go through this tight junction. And so we have things that cause stress on the GI tract. You know, this one highlights gliadin, which is, of course, a protein in wheat. But We could have gluten. We could have food allergies. Medications are very stressful on the GI tract. NSAIDs, right? Our ibuprofen and our leaves and things like that. Steroids, antibiotics, and just toxins, right? In our food and in our water. Chlorine, fluoride. We could go on and on about things that are toxic to the gut lining. When we get stressed to that gut lining, these intestinal cells secrete a protein called zonulin. Now, zonulin, it has an effect of causing those tight junctions to open up very slightly and very briefly to allow nutrients and important things through there. But when we have a lot of stress on that GI tract, we have a huge increase in this protein called zonulin. And as you can tell in this picture, these tight junctions are suddenly not so tight anymore, right? And so these things that we were talking about earlier, these antigens, these pathogens, these bacteria, these yeast, these toxins, they call these, I'm going to mention this again, or LPS, which are lipopolysaccharides, which are secreted by especially unfriendly bacteria in the gut. These lipopolysaccharides cause more inflammation. And see these little villi here, this is where we actually absorb our vitamins and minerals, on these little villi. But see how they kind of get chewed up and they get destroyed. And that's what happens in the condition we hear that's called leaky gut. And so now we have these things passing through here. It creates an immune response. We have food particles coming through there. This is where we get the situation where we get food sensitivities or food allergies. That we've never were allergic to these things before, but because of this leaky gut, our immune system starts to label some of these foods as bad guys. Once the immune system labels that food as being a bad guy, it doesn't try to figure it out anymore, right? It puts up the wanted poster, right? It says to kill on sight, and every time your immune system sees that food, it creates this inflammatory response, and we get this immune dysfunction, and all of this goes on, tissue damage. And all of this, right on the other side of this intestinal lining is our bloodstream, okay? And this is where all of this stuff ends up in the bloodstream. Well, how does this end up causing leaky brain? And I'm glad you asked that question. So these cells here, right, when we have something that gets in our bloodstream, what prevents that stuff in our bloodstream, those unwanted things, those toxins, those pathogens, from getting into the brain and causing trouble is what they call the blood-brain barrier. Okay, and notice this blood-brain barrier looks an awful lot like the cells here in the gut lining. Okay, they don't have the villi, but they do have tight junctions. Well, guess what can also open tight junctions in the blood-brain barrier? That hormone we talked about earlier called zonulin. Okay, so all of the stress in the gut releases high levels of zonulin, gets into the bloodstream. The zonulin also opens tight junctions in the blood-brain barrier. Now we have all these unfriendly things coming out of the bloodstream into the brain, creating an immune response in the brain, causing inflammation, free radical damage, causing ultimately neuroinflammation. Okay, so this is what the brain gets on fire, and is what we're talking about tonight, which of course is mental health and how this can tie in with anxiety, especially anxiety and depression. And so I put down at the bottom to consider, if you think that this could be a problem in your health, is to consider working with a functional medicine doctor or an integrative medicine practitioner or a naturopath, or somebody that really focuses in on underlying issues or root cause issues, not just treating symptoms, and maybe clean up some of this stuff here in the gut. And if there's any infections, kind of get rid of that, address the leaky gut, and we're going to improve the brain. Anything we can do in the gut to improve the health in the gut is going to cause a healthier brain, even if the only thing we did was add a really good probiotic. There's studies, which I didn't get into in tonight's talk, but where probiotics can actually improve anxiety and depression. Well, and this explains why that could be. Okay. Again, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat.
We just had a question. They asked, how do you know if you have leaky gut?
Well, that's a good question. One thing you can do is you can actually get blood tests for things like food sensitivities. Okay. If you have lots of food sensitivities, you have a leaky gut. You can also, there are tests where you can measure this protein called zonulin. And if that zonulin level is too high, they know that there's damage in the gut. And if the zonulin's high, we're going to have leaky gut. We're also going to have leaky brain. So those are two of the most common things that they do. You can also do things that are like stool analysis, comprehensive stool analysis, where they look for bad guys and, bugs, bacteria, parasites, yeast, things like that, inflammatory markers. So there's lots of different things like that that can be.
I apologize. It's on my computer and I can't get it turned off.
Not a problem.
Give me just a second. I'll get it if I can. It's one of those nights, isn't it, you guys?
Somebody's really wanting to get a hold of you, right?
I know. I apologize.
All right, so we're going to talk about a little bit about curcumin, my favorite all-around support nutrient for all of the things that we've talked about so far. We're going to look at some science on all of those things. Actually, one in my drink right here tonight. Of course, curcumin comes from turmeric, right? Turmeric is the root of the Curcuma longa plant. And then the star of the show, really, of turmeric is curcumin. And curcumin is a lipid-like substance that has a lot of research. Last check I did on PubMed, there's over 18,000 papers on curcumin for a variety of diseases and health issues and things like that. So it's very well researched. This article here talks about curcumin-mediated regulation of intestinal barrier function. And so this one is talking about how curcumin repairs that leaky gut, repairs those tight junctions. And curcumin-mediated decrease in the release of gut bacteria derived those lipopolysaccharides, like I mentioned earlier on that diagram. It decreases the release of these lipopolysaccharides into circulation by maintaining the integrity of the intestinal barrier function as the mechanism underlying the attenuation of metabolic diseases such as diabetes, atherosclerosis, kidney disease, and goes on. But curcumin in and of itself has healing capabilities of that gut lining. So if we can heal that leaky gut, right, we're going to make huge impacts on the downstream of that, which of course is getting to the brain and the blood-brain barrier. This one talks about that LPS again. Curcumin inhibits lipopolysaccharide-induced neuroinflammation, and it goes on with other things, scientific things that will put you to sleep. But this is that curcumin inhibits that LPS from the gut, which ends up in the brain causing neuroinflammation, and curcumin inhibits that whole process. This is a systematic review of the antidepressant effects of curcumin. They've known for a long time that curcumin's improved things like serotonin and dopamine and norepinephrine. They knew that, but the study says beyond monoamines. That's what monoamines are, is those types of things. So it's saying beyond that. Again, let me move my screen around here just a little bit. Curcumin improves depressant and anxiety behavior in humans. It can increase monoamines and brain-derived neurotropic factor. You probably heard that called BDNF. BDNF levels, and may inhibit the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Those are those inflammatory chemicals we talked about earlier, and neuronal apoptosis in the brain, that's cell death in the brain. Curcumin enhanced insulin sensitivity. We've talked in other talks about how insulin sensitivity in the brain leads to what they call type 3 diabetes, which is also equals Alzheimer's disease. So it enhances insulin sensitivity. It reduces cortisol levels. Those are the stress hormones that all of us are dealing with too much of a lot of times, and reverses metabolic abnormalities. So they're saying even beyond serotonin and dopamine, curcumin does all these other cool things that can impact depression. Beneficial effects of nanocurcumin supplements on depression and anxiety, and this happened to be in diabetic patients with peripheral neuropathy. But I won't go into a lot of details, but they did find there was a significant reduction in the mean score of depression in the nanocurcumin group. In addition, a significant fall was found in the mean score of anxiety in the nanocurcumin group. All right. There's always a big but, right? When we talk about things that are so good and so many advantages, there's always got to be a drawback, right? So where's the catch? And this is the catch with curcumin. It's all about bioavailability, okay? Like I mentioned earlier, curcumin and turmeric is a lipid-like substance, which is a fat or an oil-like substance. And so we're trying to get curcumin through the digestive system into the bloodstream, right? So we can have a therapeutic effect on the cells, on the brain, on the body, on the tissues. But getting oil and water to mix is going to be a challenge, right? And that's one of the challenges that we've always had with curcumin and turmeric is its bioavailability. It says curcumin has been confirmed to exhibit very poor bioavailability, with many studies showing very low or even undetectable concentrations in the blood and extraintestinal tissues. So there's been some researches, I've read some articles where they're saying quit using curcumin. Quit using curcumin and turmeric in human studies. We can't get it into the bloodstream at significant amounts. We need to quit recommending it and quit utilizing it. Major reasons postulated are due to its poor absorption, rapid metabolism, chemical instability, rapid systemic elimination. So if we're able to even get it into the bloodstream, it's rapidly broken down by the liver. It's rapidly excreted out of the body within usually 1 to 3 hours. And it's also unstable in the bloodstream. Okay, and that is until now. So this is what I'm excited about. This is what's actually in my little drink here tonight, is a new technology, okay, a brand new technology that overcomes this major hurdle with the use of curcumin and turmeric. Okay, this we're going to talk about studies that show that this German technology, it looks like this right here. Actually, I brought mine. Comes in this little protective tube. I think it's kind of cool. And it looks like this. Okay, this one actually is the Curcumin Plus, which has not only the curcumin technology, but it also has a little bit of vitamin C and ginger. And this studies are showing that we have 277 times more up to 277 times more bioavailability than native turmeric. Okay, 10 drops of this nanofy is equivalent to 17 pounds of turmeric root. Okay, that's a lot of turmeric root. So if you want to consume that much, go for it. It's not going to be pretty. And we're going to talk about the technology, how they were able to make this lipid-like substance that doesn't absorb well, that's rapidly metabolized and rapidly excreted. How are they able to get that into the bloodstream with 277 times more bioavailability? And first, they extract the curcumin, of course, out of the turmeric. Curcumin is kind of the star of the show, thought of as what would you call it, Anna? The beneficial component, the therapeutic component of the turmeric.
Yes.
And then they apply this nanotechnology to the curcumin, where they shrink the curcumin particles to a nano size. We're going to talk about what that means here in just a second. That's a very, very tiny, hard to even imagine how tiny this is, particle size. And then they wrap this in a micelle. So this micelle here is like a transporter. It's like a carrier. It's able to carry those tiny, tiny particles of curcumin anywhere in the body, easily in the bloodstream, easily into the cells, also easily across the blood-brain barrier. And this is one reason we're seeing so many benefits in the area of mental health with this new technology. And like this picture over here shows, less than 30 nanometers in size is the end result. So how does that look? What's a nanometer and how small is that? Well, a red blood cell is 7,000 nanometers wide, okay? Our particle size is less than 30 nanometers. A sheet of paper is 75,000 nanometers thick. Strand of DNA is 2.5 nanometers wide. Human hair is close to 100,000 nanometers wide. This is a pinhead, 1 million nanometers wide. So that's the particle size we're talking about. And that might help you visualize why that's so easy, so much easier to get this into the body, into the bloodstream, into the cells, so that it can do its magic. This is just a study of a single oral dose of 2,000 milligrams of curcumin, okay? This is nanograms per milliliter here. And this is the time in hours, okay? And fasten your seatbelts. This is the peak right there of the concentration of curcumin in the bloodstream at 1 hour. Ta-da! So this explains why scientists earlier were saying, don't use it. It's not worth it. And some weren't even able to detect it. So this is an oral dose of 2,000 milligrams of curcumin. And by 2 hours, they can't measure it anymore. It's gone. Okay, that's the part we talked about, rapid excretion, rapid elimination of curcumin. Okay, this is our technology here. They tested it in the orange is men, the pink here is women. The women peak way up here, the men peak down here. And then down here, which you can't even see come off of the baseline, is the native curcumin, which is down here somewhere. We can't see the rise because there's really not one. But what's more exciting is, remember the other picture that showed us that it was gone in 2 hours? Look at this. These are the spikes here in blood levels in 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours, 20 hours, 24 hours later, they're still measuring curcumin levels in the plasma, in the bloodstream. So that is unheard of in a nutritional supplement from a single dose, being able to measure it 24 hours later, especially curcumin. Never has happened ever, ever, ever that we could keep curcumin in the bloodstream longer than maybe 4 hours max. And then this is why when I've used curcumin and turmeric for over 20 years in my practice, but what I would have to do is I'd have to dose super heavy and I'd have to dose frequently, right? So my patients were taking handfuls of curcumin capsules multiple times a day because I knew we weren't keeping it in the bloodstream very long. And I was trying to get a therapeutic effect. Now we can do that with a single dose. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up now, and we're gonna invite some people to share their experience with mental health and with this technology. Has there been any other questions dropped in the chat, Hannah?
Yeah, there's been a couple. Hold on just a second. Can the brain heal once a brain barrier was damaged?
That's a very good question. And studies show that it can, if we can stop the inflammatory cascade of those neurochemicals that we talked, those inflammatory cytokines we talked about. We can calm the release of those lipopolysaccharides that were released from those unfriendly bacteria because it's caused from the leaky gut, right? So if we can stop that zonulin release from the leaky gut, we're going to have good success at being able to patch up and heal the blood-brain barrier.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Then we have another question here: is can I get better results by putting the drops under the tongue?
You know, I don't think we've studied that, but from people sharing with me, they do get quicker results by doing it under their tongue. It's not super delightful under your tongue. I'll just be honest. Some of y'all are laughing because you know it's true. But it's a really thick liquid, and it puts your teeth a nice yellow color for about 30 minutes. But I tell you what, if I have a headache, I will put it under my tongue, and then I'll just chase it with some coffee or something. You know.
Yeah, if it's a really bad headache, I'll do it. Otherwise, not happening. Not today.
My favorite place to put it is in my coffee or in some hot tea.
And then someone wanted to know, can you take it every 12 hours?
Yes, you could. You could. Some of my patients, especially that are dealing with really significant inflammation, if they're really struggling with anxiety and depression, I will have them do at least 2 servings a day. One of my friends that we were talking with early, Kimberly, she may be on here, was sharing how she was using it 3 times a day and getting an even better response. So you saw that image where they took the Nanofy curcumin, the technology, and it was a dramatic spike, right?
Yeah.
But slowly it came down. After about 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, it was quite a bit lower than it was when it first taken. And so it makes sense that as that's coming down, to take another dose, right?
Right.
And keeping those levels even higher in the bloodstream for longer. And so, but I have some patients that get tremendous results with just doing 10 drops once a day, and we know that it is staying in their bloodstream for 24 hours. So,
Every time you show that chart, you know what I think of? The merry-go-round at the local park versus going to Cedar Point and getting on those crazy roller coasters. That's about the difference in the ride you're going to get with this product.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
So let
All
me
right.
see.
So,
I think
let's see here. You keep looking for questions. I want to see if Heather, are you on? If you are, unmute yourself.
Hi,
Here she is. Hey, welcome.
how are you?
Good. Thanks for hopping on. I just wanted to see if you would share your experience with us tonight.
Yeah, so basically I was introduced to these drops last summer, actually due to an ankle injury. And throughout the months and everything, like at first I was like, okay, maybe this doesn't have anything to do with this. Maybe it's just getting better on its own. And then I realized that the more I took it, the more like different parts of my body wasn't hurting anymore. So that was like really wild. And then I noticed my mental clarity was getting better. I noticed that because I have BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. And I noticed that my episodes, they weren't so severe. They weren't so bad. Of course, I still have my moments, where sometimes it feels like a roller coaster, but I can manage it better. I can control it a lot quicker. And at one point in time, I was on 6 different kinds of medications. So not being on medication and only having to take these drops, I couldn't be more blessed. I couldn't be more thankful.
That is so awesome. So you're doing 10 drops in the morning, I see in the chat, and 5 in the mid-afternoon.
I am. Yep. And then because I still have my days. I still have my moments. If I feel like it's a really high day, which is like, a bad day, I'll do 10 in the morning and then 10 at night.
Yeah. That's amazing.
That's awesome. Thank you, Heather, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Let me see. Lisa, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Lisa, share your testimony with us.
Well, and it's going to be a little different than it was last week because I'm actively in a complete and total anxiety attack this week. So, but I didn't really notice it. So here's my little story. As a parent, you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. And so I have 3 kids. And so at any given moment, one kid is like, it's kind of like this in the house, right? So we're having issues with our 3rd child. Our 1st child is graduating from high school and she's going to move away all within a span of 3 months. My middle child's fantastically happy and smooth sailing, which is great because 1 out of 3 is good. That's a good batting average, right? So I was just writing all this down this Sunday. So last week I left for 5 days to go on a trip with my youngest child. In hindsight, not the smartest move because my daughter's graduating on Monday and we're having a party for 100 people on Sunday. So I didn't get to get all the things done this week that my crazy self would have normally loved to do. And then when I came back to my day job, it's out of control and completely busy. We're in the weirdest time of our season. And then we're moving out of state in the next few months. And so all of this coupled together would typically have me in the most horrendous breakdown. And by breakdown, I mean screaming at people, crying all the time, which don't get me wrong, I'm crying, but that's because, you know, my kid's graduating and that's sad. Sleeping all the time. And I've been on these drops for, I think, 3 months now. And I noticed that I was starting to sleep, and I noticed I fell off, but I didn't know what was going on because I didn't have all those knee-jerk reactions. And so, unbeknownst to me, my body just said, hey, take some more curcumin this week. And I have been. And I tell you, I may do this week, but normally where it would have been like this. And so, I'm sure my entire family is completely happy and thrilled that I'm taking this. And the only side effect I've noticed this week is I literally came home from work today and took a nap for about 45 minutes because my body was just wiped. You know, self-care, got to do what you got to do when you feel it coming on. But I have noticed, and I've been on a few meds too. I've been on a few prescriptions, and if you're taking them, there is no shame in the game. Please take them, do what you need to do for yourself. But for me personally, I have seen a better result from the curcumin than I ever did with any medicine. The medicine kind of made me feel numb and like I was a walking zombie. And this brings some mental focus to the game. This brings some, I don't want to say self-control, but that's kind of what it is self-control and some awareness of everything else that's going on. And it truly has been an enormous blessing this week for me.
That is so awesome.
That is amazing.
Thank you, Lisa. That's amazing. Kimberly, can you share with us tonight? Thank you for hopping on.
Hello, Jeremy. So for me, a little history. I am a sexual abuse survivor, and I was abused from age 5 to 13, 3 to 4 times a week. And at age 38, I had my mother call me the other woman. At about age 40, I had a massive head injury, and I was going through my second divorce because my second husband had violated my daughter from my first marriage. So I have what's called complicated PTSD with a head injury, which is very complicated because for me, tonight's call has really resonated with me in reference to really understanding some of the stuff that I've dealt with. Mm-hmm. And like I was sharing earlier, being mindful has been a challenge for me to do on a daily basis. I have spent decades in therapy just functioning. I can't take the psych drugs. It not only kills your libido, it makes you numb, just like Lisa said. And it made me sleep. The last one they gave me, I had no life. All I did was sleep all day. So I can't take psych drugs. So therapy has been my guide. And at one point, I literally had 4 therapists because I was on suicide watch because of the amount of stress my body was going through. I had no ability to work at all. I lost my business and was placed on Social Security disability. And I still suffer a little bit from the anxiety and depression. Now, I've been on the curcumin since December, okay? And the last 2 months, I've actually run out and had to wait 4 days to get my next shipment. And I can honestly say that I take 10 drops in the morning, I take 10 drops about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I take another 10 drops before I go to bed. So those 4 days, by the 4th day, I'm feeling it. And I can feel the anxiety coming back. I become mute in my anxiety because of what has happened to me in my past. I feel that being quiet is safer. And so I don't move forward in where I need to be when I'm not working on being mindful. So when I'm mindful, I can actually heal my traumas because I don't react to them. I can actually sit with them. So what the turmeric has done for me, the coumarin has done for me, has literally removed all my brain fog. I used to have to read the paper, you know, that I needed to understand, or the document somebody would give me 3, 4, 5 times, or have somebody else try to explain it to me because I could never understand what I read. And this was literally last year before I started taking this product. This product has literally given me the ability to read that form once and I can fill it out now.
Wow.
I don't have the pain in my body that I have come accustomed to deal with on a daily basis. The migraines don't happen anymore. And by the way, I put it under my tongue. That is how I've been taking it. And it does work quicker for me. I stopped doing Botox because I don't have the migraines anymore with the coumarin. So I'm actually saving money.
Love it.
My life is literally different with this product in a way where I'm able to see the little areas that I need to work on, like the tone of my voice. Because of what's happened to me, I become assertive with my voice, and sometimes people, and my eyes are really dramatic. So people think I'm like attacking them with my voice, and being Italian doesn't help that either. So I tend to be too assertive. So I want to be that person I knew I was when I was in my 20s, even after this bad event had happened to me as a child. I was very soft-spoken. I've always been a kind, loving, gentle soul who loved to help people. And that's never changed. But my assertiveness holds me back because I know that I can push people away with the amount of drama that comes from my eyes and my voice. So it's something that I am working on a daily basis, because I know that once I get past this one little thing, my whole life is going to change, because I will be able to have that conversation with people without elevating my voice much above this, and have that ability to still entice somebody to continue to listen so that they have more interest. So it's very hard for me to still get people to listen. And that's why I'm not accelerating in the business like I'd like to. But I'm also 7 months into being mindful every day. So I had somebody ask me the other day, how does your PTSD show up? I become mute. The next time I saw him, he said something to me that triggered me, which was, women belong in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant.
Mhm.
And I just stayed silent for a few seconds, took a deep swallow, and just kind of let it pass, because I wasn't going to let that ruffle my feathers, right? And react like I normally, I would have gone ballistic on that guy for saying that one statement, okay? Because that's how my anxiety shows up. The depression is, the emotions just go all over the board, like Leslie, the girl who spoke before me, said. I mean, my kids affect me majorly, and they don't even realize they're doing it. So sometimes when I deal with my children who don't live at home anymore, they're all out on their own, I literally have to take a break after the phone call. And I allow them to dump whatever they need. But let me tell you, they would not have even considered doing this to me before I started taking this product last December, okay? they know that mom is stable now to where they can call me. And I hope my daughter Ashley's not on this call tonight, but she knows that I am able to handle the extra stress now that my family needs me to handle, which is huge. I can take it, I can process it, I can sit on it, and then I can actually, with God's grace, in the moment they're talking to me, I let him flow through me and give them what they need. And the week that follows, I'm still processing what they say. And that's normal. That's what moms do. And I feel like I'm a human being again that isn't completely riddled in anxiety to where when my daughter would say something to me, I literally would go smoke a whole joint to my head because I can't take a pill, okay? So I would have my husband sometimes see this happening and he would just hold me and I could calm myself. But now that I have this product, I don't even need that. I mean, I want that. I love his affection and stuff, but that's on a different level now. I'm enjoying my relationship with my husband more because I'm able to actually not be numb. And he actually is saying that he is loving this new person that he's seeing flourish in my growth because I'm not fully fogged in my brain. And I know that my brain is healing itself. I can feel it. I have so many neurological things going on, which is why I wanted to know if this could actually heal that blood-brain barrier, because I have been searching for this product for a very long time and I've used coumarin for years, but it's never given me what this has given me today. So the anxiety and the depression and the head injury and the traumas that I have been through, I literally am that walking basket case that would shop at night because I didn't want to be seen. I hide. I would stay in my house. I literally am functioning now. I help my husband. I have beautiful conversations with people that I see at the grocery store. I'm not afraid to go out and shop during the day. I don't shop at night anymore. I'm not a walking zombie. So thank you for listening and listening to my testimony.
That was so beautiful, Kimberly. I have to say, I am so blessed because you're on my team and I have got to watch your story just open up. It's been one of the most beautiful things. And it helps me realize once again why we do what we do is because you guys, you do not know who is praying for a miracle like this. You do not know the power of what we have in our hands, and we need to be there for people. This is just so powerful. I don't know if I'm the only one who's crying. I don't think so because I've been seeing a lot of people bawling in the chat. But
so
thank you
FYI,
for sharing.
Anna, I bought 12 bottles this month. I will never run out again.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Because you were really stressing when you ran out this last time.
Oh my gosh. I had so much pain. And like I said, the anxiety starts to roll back in and I don't handle the depression as well. I get a little emotional. But it gets a little more emotional. And I hope that one day I can actually have conversations without even getting teary-eyed. But thank you for letting me share tonight.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I mean, that's a big step to be able to be that transparent about our past. So many people hide behind what's happened in their past and they don't want to talk about it. But reality is, if you've been watching the chat, there's so many others here who've went through similar experiences and we all hurt. And that's how we heal, is when we get brave enough to share our story of hope, help, and healing. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. We have to break through this stigma of that somehow there's something wrong with you if you have depression or anxiety or you have mental health challenges, and we have to talk about it. We have to encourage people to talk about it. We have to have that open dialogue, and we have to talk about things that actually get to the root cause of some of these issues, right? And I'm not against prescription medication, and I'm sure there's many on here that's been a very helpful tool. But it's not correcting anything, right? Does that make sense? It's helping, but it's not correcting anything. And so we want to impact healing in a way that is repairing and correcting some of those underlying issues that is leading to the mental health challenges. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Heather, Lisa, Kimberly, for sharing. Stacy was going to share tonight, but I'm going to save her for our next Zoom when we cover this topic again, because she has a powerful story as well. And guys, people in your life need to hear this story. They need to experience this technology. And so if they weren't able to get on, make sure you get back with the person that invited you, get a copy of this that you can share. And two, if you haven't tried this technology, you need to.
Yes.
So reach out to the person who invited you and try this amazing new curcumin technology. We also have some amazing testimonial and information groups that you're welcome to just be invited to, where you can come in and just look around and check it out and see some of the other health benefits that this helps with. And Anna, why don't you wrap it up for us?
This was
Can I ask
amazing.
a really quick question?
You bet.
This is Deb. I'm sorry. Is there 3 different products then? 3 different types of the liquid curcumin?
There's 2. There is.
Oh, there is just 2?
Yes.
Okay.
There's the Nanofy curcumin. I call that the original version, right? And then there's the Curcumin Plus, which is the same, except they've added a little bit of vitamin C and ginger.
Yes.
Avidify also has a gut health supplement, which we didn't have time to cover tonight, which
Okay.
is a capsule system. But there's 2 different versions of the curcumin technology.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you all so much for getting on tonight. I don't know if you all kind of feel like I do, but if you notice, we had problems with connection, and we've never had that before. We had issues with someone calling in, and I've never had that happen before. But I will tell you, those were powerful testimonies at the end, and there is somebody somewhere who needs to hear this. And I don't know how you believe, but I truly believe whenever the evil one knows that somebody can get help from something, he will do everything in his power to stop the truth from getting out. I am so excited about this call, in spite of the fact how crazy it was. There is somebody who needs to hear these testimonies. There is somebody somewhere that is praying for this. And I'm trusting that you all will share this recording far and wide and get it into the hands of the person who needs us. Yes, there will be a recording. I should have it, I'm going to say by noon tomorrow, hopefully before, but yes, there will be a recording. It will be out there for everyone to see and to share. And again, get back with the person who loved you enough to invite you here, and they can help you get set up with the product. It also asks them to get you into a group of testimonies as well as education information. And we're going to do this again next week. Dr. Jeremy, did you decide what we're going to talk about next week?
Yeah, we're going to do a deep dive into curcumin itself, into the history, into the research, and not only going to talk about the things that it can do for mental health, but we're going to talk about things like autoimmune disease. We're going to talk about things like blood sugar. We're going to talk about
It's kind of a big
other
umbrella.
inflammatory conditions that's all around curcumin and why it's so powerful.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm excited. So come back next week, same time, same Zoom number, and bring a friend with you, and let's take that deep dive into the big umbrella of curcumin. Okay, y'all take care, be blessed, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Guys.
Love y'all.
Bye.